Hello everyone who's joining us today. I'm Sandra Phillips and you've tuned in to hear from Elaine Crombie, who you will be hearing from very soon. This, as you would know, is the second NIDA Annual Lecture. The inaugural NIDA Annual Lecture was presented by Ursula Jovic in the COVID-19 ravaged 2020. This year, we have the wonderful talent, the wonderful woman, the amazing person that is Elaine Crombie. So we will get to Elaine's biography shortly. Firstly, if I could acknowledge the country upon which I join with you today. It's the lands of the Jagera and Turrbal peoples. And Elaine, no doubt, will acknowledge where she's joining us from. And I understand that's the Gurnai-Kurnai land in South Australia. So let me begin with Elaine's short biography prepared by her management company, Bedford and Pierce, if anyone's looking to book her. So Elaine Crombie is a Pitjantjatjara, Warrigmal, and South Sea Islander and German-descended woman and proud mother of two brilliant sons. Elaine is an actor, singer, songwriter, writer, and a whole lot more, which you will hear shortly, with a career that spans now over 20 years. Elaine has extensive theatre work, having started her career formerly, I take it, with the Queensland Theatre Company, and has since also worked with Bangarra Dance Theatre, Belvoir Street Theatre, Sydney Theatre Company again, Malthouse Theatre Company, and a whole host of others. Elaine, as you would know or might know, has an impressive and growing list of credits in film and television, which she may also reflect on a bit today. Elaine has new work being broadcast very soon in the next couple of days, and NITV commissioned History Bites Back. And Elaine has other forthcoming new work that she may also speak to. I understand that may be called around Kiki and Kitty. And of course, many of you would know Elaine from her work on the Black Comedy series. So with great pleasure, I invite Elaine to share with us whatever she wants to on the second NIDA Annual Lecture.
Oh, thank you. Thank you for that lovely welcome, Sandra. Hi, everyone. How are we all this fine afternoon? It's lovely and sunny over here in Adelaide. I'm beaming into you live on and later on this afternoon I'll be travelling up to Nukunu country to where my mum, my nan and my two brilliant sons. Actually, that's 3 brilliant sons now. I think I should update my bio to include my dog because he's amazing. A photo of him right now. This is Bear, everybody. Everybody, Bear. Bear, everybody. Hi, everybody. Look, I'm really quite honoured to be being here for all. I didn't realise that I was ready for TED Talks, but I guess I am. Like, this is my first introduction to having a yarn. Where should I start? Let me start at the beginning. So I grew up in Port Pirie in South Australia with my mother's foster mum. And while I was growing up in Port Pirie, Mum was living in Sydney, chasing her career as well. And for those of you that do or don't know, my mother is Elaine Crombie, and she has her own extensive, formidable career as well. And it's something that I've aspired to do and be like and create along with for a number of years. And so growing up in Port Pirie, you know, small town South Australia, it comes with its difficulties, its struggles, as most people would know growing up in a small town, but also being black growing up in a small town just has that lovely sweet layer along with it. And so, you know, it was kind of, and so I was for a lot of in a survival mode. How am I going to navigate this? How am I going to get through? How am I going to get on with life? And so that started with singing a lot. Like I used to sing all the time. Lunchtimes I would be singing on the oval, would request songs and I'd just be up there singing. I remember one day I got up and sang with one of the local high school rock bands. And that was it was something that everybody raved about, like people would remember that. And it was just, you know, it was where I felt most comfortable on the stage, reflecting, like, you know, looking back at it now. And even looking back at growing up in town at that time, it was a lot of, I just would know everybody, would interact with everyone. I very much had it was very much also a kind of coping mechanism of everybody. You got to know everybody and all this kind of stuff, and make people laugh. I was always wanting to make people laugh and just kind of, use that to get by. And so while I was 15, as well as all 15 and 16-year-olds do, I own a 15 and a 17-year-old, so I know the drill. But, we're writing our own, when we're 15, 16, we're writing our own rules and whatever else. And so the AEW at the time, the Aboriginal Education Worker, and my nan, like, yeah, she can't be doing this. Get to Adelaide. Go on, see you later. You're going to attend the Centre for Aboriginal Studies in Music. You want to sing around and rhymes, but then you also want to ditch school and all this kind of stuff and be naughty. You can get along and go and sing and learn how to sing properly and sing the band and up all of that talent that you have. And so there began my journey. When I was 16, I was at Adelaide Uni attending the Centre for Aboriginal Studies in Music, going to vocal classes, going to traditional classes, learning songs, singing with bands, and so, and making all of these things that I have recently. The wonderful thing about this online world is that people are reaching out and reconnecting and stuff like that. And hey, Elaine, you remember me from Chasm days and stuff like that? It's like, oh wow, yes, I do, I totally do. And it's great to have those memories and remember them. But from attending Chasm, it didn't, they thought it was my nan, and the Aboriginal education worker thought, oh yes, she's going to do it, she's going to succeed. No, she had other plans. She was still wanting to write her own rules and not listen and do, all of these things. And so then Mum's friend friend and long time dance colleague, Michael Leslie, was setting up a school in Brisbane called the Aboriginal Performing Arts. And Mum rings me and she's like, hey, Elaine, do you want to go up there and just check this out? And I was like, yeah, okay. I really didn't think I was up for anything. I really was. I had something inherent in me, something in me that was just like, don't say no. Don't stay in one place. You've always got to be moving. You always have to keep it going and just say yes, you know. And so Mum suggested this. I said yes. But also in saying yes, it took me 5 times to get on that plane. And, you know, back in the days when the ticket was booked, you could move that ticket very easily. You could just get on the next flight, which is what I did 5 times until my then boyfriend at the time grabbed my hand, walked me to the line, and he said, "You're going, goodbye." And we broke up. And that was it. She was on her way. So, you know, I landed in Brisbane. I was 17. Prior to going to Brisbane, I'd gone through DNA tests with my father. Hey, look, we're going to go deep, guys. Let me just tell you, this is all encompassing. I and his name is Sam Bacco, and he is a Queenslander. He comes from up there, Queensland. So I'm a proud Maroons supporter. And we'd done the DNA test. Yes, he was, when I finally met him, he was like, "We didn't need a DNA test, Darl. I just had to put your photo next to, you know, your brothers and sisters," and you could see it was like, "You understand that?" But my nan was the one that was like, "No, you're getting DNA tests, Sam. We want to know." And so that happened, and then I'd never met this fella, and he picked me up from the airport. Not meeting this bloke, he comes bounding through the door with 3 kids hanging with him, my siblings, and I was just shocked. It was all just kind of, which is like the way most of my career has happened, where I've just kind of sat there and allowed it to happen. I've watched it all unfold in front of my eyes, and this is what had happened. In the airport, he walked in. He was like, "I'm your dad. Pass your bags here. You're coming with me. I'll take your bags and you can make your way home tonight." And then Uncle Michael Leslie pulled up, and I jumped in the car with him, and we went into Brisbane City and went to the Metro Arts Centre there. That's where ACTA started, on level 4 in Metro Arts in Edward Street. And yeah, you know, the rest is history in regards to me and Dad for the first time. We still have a wonderful relationship, and my siblings as well. I love all of my siblings dearly. Growing up as a single child, as an only child, it was interesting to go, "Oh, finally, I have brothers." But, you know, throughout my life, I have attached myself to big families because I haven't had a big family as well. You know, I have a lot of deep extended family connections here in South Australia, and it just kind of followed me throughout my life. I meet a lot of people and then make connections with their families as well, because I just love the interaction of what it is to be in family. And so going to the Aboriginal Centre for Performing Arts, that's my first artistic family, and most of those connections are still alive and well. And wow, I'm only just reflecting on it now that I'm talking to all of you, because I know that there are probably students that are on this that are going to NIDA for the first time and are making these kind of connections, and they will just, you know, you've just got to love everybody and get to know everybody, and you know, love the mob that you're with when you're struggling. So, like, you know, we were students living in a share house. It's all, you know, everyone goes through it. It's the best thing. We were living in a share house, you know, trying to get by week to week, going to us, lengthening our skill set and just kind of trying to do this life thing, as well as carve out some kind of career at the ages of 17, 18. Like crazy, so crazy, but so worth it now that I look at my career. I look at, like, Stephen Oliver was my tap teacher. He taught us tap dance. Kamahi Jordan King, who is now Constantina Bush, one of Australia's well-known drag queens, like just the connections that we've made have lasted. And most of those connections from ACPA are still in some ways involved in the arts, which is amazing as well. So through doing that, my first audition was like a cattle call with Queensland Theatre Company, and it was for the show The Sunshine Club, written by Wesley Enoch and John Rogers. It was amazing. I got the job. I belted out Aretha Franklin and I got the job. Thank you to those earlier years of singing on the school oval at lunchtimes for my mates. And so, it kind of, once I was in that production, and then just being myself, making those connections, but apparently just being myself and loving what I do, because that's the main thing that I tell any young fellas that want to come up and take their photo and stuff like, yeah, so what? What do you want to do? What do you like to do? Tell me what you want to do. And then at the end of that conversation, it's always, well, find what you love, do that. I tell my kids all the time, you got to work out what you love and do that. But even in saying that, that takes time. Hey, I'm probably just giving myself a little bit of a talking to as well. Don't put so much pressure on your 17-year-old to have to know his whole life. Like, he'll work out eventually. You just got to love and cherish him. Elaine, yes, I'm listening. I can hear you. Get back to the thing. Okay. So from Sunshine Club, Wesley then, kind of held on to me for a couple of years. I did Fountains Beyond with him. We did the Sydney season of Sunshine Club. And then I did, what did I do? Then I was down in Sydney living, and I did Conversations with the Dead with him, with Belvoir. Excuse me. Conversations with the Dead, and then I had my children. I was pregnant with Andrew when I was doing Conversations with the Dead, and Mum was actually on that show as well. So I said to you a while back that it's special to, especially in, I know there's a lot of families that work together and stuff like that, but to be on stage with your mother and acting, and sometimes not even in that relationship as mother and daughter, is definitely something that I think it really is. It's like, because, and it must be, and so I don't know what it's like for me. I'm just always like, yeah, I'm acting with my mum, but who knows what my mother was thinking while she's in a scene, or not even in a scene, or standing at the scene with Margaret Harvey, during Cherry Pickers. So Mum and I have worked together on Cherry Pickers as well, which was directed by Wesley, and that was another. And we toured England with that show as well. And so, Mum and I were, every now and then we'd be out doing interviews and stuff like that. you know, it was a special time to be touring with your mother as well in a professional theatre show. Yeah, fantastic. And so, you know, like for a lot of, and that's just once I started auditioning and getting the hang of auditioning for TV and film, I mean, I feel like in the last couple of years have I come into my power of nailing auditions. It's a skill. It's a total skill set that you need to be able to craft properly. And I've never had, like, I've had to do everything on the fly. And if I look back I mean, I'm 40 now. I'm in my 40s now. I'm 41. And I look back at my time in my schooling and I just kind of go, oh, it was like she was a hot mess. That's 17, 22-year-old that was studying was a hot mess. I don't know what was going on with her, but she made it. Like, she's here today. I really wish I would have focused more, and maybe I would have changed my major back at Chasm ACPA to acting, but my major was music. My thing has always been music. Like, next year I'm hoping to put in location for Adelaide Fringe, and I'm going to get a whole bunch of musos together and just create this show for song. I've done a lot of acting. I've been at the will of a lot of directors, both on stage and screen, and I'd like to revisit, even if it's just for like a season, a festival. If I just revisit just to revisit my roots that I started out with, you know, as a singer. I remember walking into my first day, and there was this poster, and Christine Arnoux was on there, and the title said, "Could you be Christine Arnoux?" And I was like, oh my God, that poster is talking to me. I could be the next Christine Arnoux. I'm not the first and only Elaine Crombie. And, you know, I'm lucky enough to say that Christine's one of my dear friends now. You know, on the phone, we call each other up every now and then, have a yarn. Yeah, and so moving into TV and film, it was, you know, I remember back when I first started, like when I first started living, I was going for these auditions and stuff like that, and really wanting the part, not getting the part, wondering why I didn't get the part, and really pushing and thinking that those parts were meant for me. Well, no, now that I look back at it, it was like, no, sis, those parts were never meant for you. You were never meant to play those parts. But at the age of 37, I was meant to do a choreographed dance piece to Janet Jackson's Escapade in Throb nightclub with Shari Sebbins, Miranda Tapsell and Delara Williams as a part of a girl group. And yes, I'll do that with teenage sons and being one of the older women in that awesome girl group. That was meant to be me. That was my part. That audition for that role was my role. And to realize that now is beyond, you know, you've always got to true to what it is you're doing and what your passion is. And if your passion is acting, if your passion is singing, also if your passion is acting, then you just have to stick at it, because those roles are coming. Those roles that you want are coming. And even if you have to create those roles, then that's a whole other creative skill set that you can bring to the table in order to create a space for you. If your space isn't there, then you have to go out and carve out that space. But trust me, that space is out there for you. You know, and I've worked with some of the greatest, like some of the greatest creatives on this island of so-called Australia that we live on. I've worked with some of Leah Purcell, Lisa Flanagan, Leah Flanagan, Natasha Wanganeen, Wayne Blair, Shari Sebbins, like I've said, Miranda, Bessie Holland, funny lady, Guy Simon, funny dude. Guy Simon, I just got to do it because I know that he went tonight as well. I just have to do a shout out to him. He is one of the funniest fellas I've worked with. He messaged me earlier this week and he was like, oh, can I share this photo of you? Actually, I might just find the photo. It was when we were doing, what was the show? It wasn't Blackie Brown. It was Black Showgirls in Melbourne. Oh, big! Now I've got to do like a big scroll through my. What? Sorry, and now I'm just taking a whole heap of time. But I'm gonna find where is the picture? Oh, there's a lot of pictures of my baby. Hey, where's this photo? Anyway, but what I wanted to just he's a funny fella. I don't know where else to go. I suppose one of my other passions that I have is stand-up comedy. You know, it's definitely something that is a challenge, and that's the good thing about, you know, I always think how can I put this? So being an older woman in this game and taking note of all of the youngers coming through, all of the younger generations coming through, and some have just blazed past with those comedic, those cartoons they just zoom through and they've got like the fire behind them and stuff like that. There have been times where I've sat in my career and I've just watched these young ones just come through. Hey, who was that? What just happened? And for, you know, they've come through, they've been hungrier, they've wanted it more, and they've just come through and built beautiful careers. And I had to really look at myself and ask myself if I wanted to stay in this career, could I do it? Could I get over myself? I had to sit down and have a very hard conversation with myself. Well, don't get funny because these ones are coming through. You got to learn to love them. I had to tell myself that I have to love them, and which I do. I mean, it was a small conversation that I had with myself. It probably lasted 10 minutes. I just had to kind of go, Lainey, get over it. What's happening right now? You're not being helpful to yourself. You're not being anybody else. If you're going to cast this eye of a head tilt, like what's going on? Like there's no side eye in this game. Not being a black artist, being black and being in the arts, we can't do that. We have to always lead with love and love each other and celebrate each other. And so I purposefully love everybody and champion anybody and everybody, and even in doing that subconsciously, I now am greatness. And if I'm on stage with someone, or if I'm watching theatre and someone is moving me, I will tell them, and I will also reflect back about the performance that I've witnessed either on stage with myself or in the theatre. And I'll also champion that to other people, you know. It's that whole thing of talking about people when they're not in the room. Like, I don't know if Simon is watching this, or Bessie Holland, or Tali Faraday for that matter, who lives down in Naarm. But three of the funniest people that I know, that I would kill to be in a funny, dark comedy play, TV show, whatever. You know what I mean? Like, it's just that kind of thing. And so, in saying that and seeing all of these young fellas come through and all that kind of stuff, I had a then tactical discussion with myself and said, what else can you do? Because you've got to be adaptable, and I have to make myself expendable and replaceable, but also not replaceable at the same time. I've got to make sure that I have a skill set that I can do anything. I can host stand-up comedy, I can write, I can direct, I can give advice, I can listen, I can love, I can sing, I can songwrite. Like, it's a whole, you definitely have to keep, reinvent is one of the words, but I don't think it's the right word. But it is just about, because I'm not reinventing myself, I'm picking up these other parts within me. It's not just all about acting, and it's not just all about singing, and it's not just all about dance. I'm able to dance. My mother, on the other hand, before she had me, was an accomplished ballerina. And so once she had me, then she had to change. Like, she just had to shift into acting. And she's funny as well. Like, that's where I get my wit, my quick wit from, is my mum. And also then that passes down to my kids. Like, my kids are also two of the funniest. My youngest, he is dry and quick, and he will slice you like bread, like a hot knife through butter. Yeah, I mean, if there were any, I don't know, like, if anybody ever has any questions, please don't hesitate to hit me up. I will definitely answer any questions. But I just think, yeah, I'm not quite sure. Hey, Sandra, hey. How are you going? How am I going?
Can you hear me, Lillian?
Yes, I can.
Thank you. I just need to know if I'm joining you on the screen now. So I'll proceed as if I am. I'm not sure. We'll have to listen to Ben through the ear on that.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Lillian. That's fantastic. I've really enjoyed listening to you. Now, sis, you know how we move your mobile phone closer to the glass? Do you want to have a go at moving yours just a little bit more to improve the vision?
Oh, okay.
Yeah, see how we go with that?
You want me to put it outside?
No, darling, near the glass. Is it still near the glass?
Yeah.
Near the window? Yeah,
Yes.
it's not perfect, but anyway, never mind. We're here and we got to hear from you, which is fantastic. So many takeaways there, and there have been a few questions and a few comments that have come through the stream. So let me share some of them. Love your shirt, love your jumper. So that's great. Kin Ego on Fleek. Do you want to share who made that one with the mob?
So I designed it.
Uh-huh.
I designed it and I just ordered it online. Maybe I need to set up an Etsy or something.
That's fantastic. Well, that's another string to your bow then, in terms of that production.
Yes.
And your always will be necklace has gotten comment. Now, there is a question. Oh, yeah. Yep, thank you.
Well, I just
there is a question.
This was from this is from Doodad Fandango, and Felicia Fox, the realtor from Sydney, messaged me and asked if I wanted. This is her collaboration with Doodad Fandango. Yeah.
Fantastic. Thank you. That's wonderful, Elaine. And I keep going to call you Lillian, which is showing my age. So forgive me if I do that. One of the questions, in some ways, you've already answered, but the question was, what would you tell your younger self, and who are some of the people who've had the most influence on you? If I could just, given you've been speaking for a good 40 minutes now, some of the takeaways that I got from you in what you were just saying, what would you tell your younger self, or what advice do you give people? Say yes. Love the mob you're with. Find out what you love and do it, recognising that there can be structural barriers to that, but it's not a bad thing to commit to. Find out what you love and do it. Lead with love. You've also imparted. There's some really deadly advice here that you've given, particularly younger ones who are entering the industry. And I felt like I was listening to a bit of a roll call on, the talented Aboriginal or Torres Strait Islander people that we have here on this continent. And your career obviously has intersected with a lot of leaders in that space, a lot of people who've taken those early risks, who've made success, like Wesley Enoch and Leah Purcell in particular, but there's also so many other people that you've named, like your sister and collaborator there, Bessie Holland. So I do hope you get to a point of either getting that show up at Adelaide Fringe, or by some other means getting that kind of dark comedy happening with those women that you find hilarious. So maybe we'll go to that. What makes for good comedy, Elaine? What makes something hilarious, do you think?
Well, I think it has to have heart, and you've got to believe what you're saying, but you also have to understand. And coming from, I mean, I've not studied comedy. I'm acting, but I will speak like I know, because I know because for me, I can feel a joke out. I understand, like, the rule of three and all that kind of stuff. Even hearing it, like I was in, when I've been in developments and stuff like that, and there's just little scenes that have come up, and I've just, maybe somebody should say this now. Like, I've helped adjust scenes and stuff like that, just for that comedy element. But you really do it is a technical thing, like, and you've got to watch a lot of comedy. Like, I watch a lot of sitcom shows, Friends, The Office, USA, Fraser, and so those are my three main go-tos. They're very white, which is not a bad thing. And that's comedy that, even further to The Office, I watch Parks and Recreation. Like, I'm all about watching people deliver funny bits, watching people, like, even watching a lot of stand-up, Cat Williams, Eddie Murphy, even I can't think of that fellow. I can see his face now, but you know, even like Tiffany Haddish as well. Like, and that's, you know, it's a heavily American-based influence. But also, I grew up with Kingswood Country. They were funny, like watching Hey Hey It's Saturday. And so even like being involved with black comedy, like and filming like the big group scenes were hilarious, and definitely was something special to be in a scene with Aaron Farzo, Stephen Oliver, Elizabeth Weimara, Leonie Wyman, Nakia Louie, like just these, you know, all of these writers, comedy writers, funny people, and there is definitely a power that was in when we're filming as well and trying to get a scene and stuff like that. So yeah, I hope I answered that. I realised I just talked for ages then about comedy.
No, that's deadly. I particularly liked how you started answering that question, though, which is, I'm going to talk like I know, because you do know, and it's interesting. You would know so much from what is essentially now 23 years of practice. We heard you say music was your major there at ACPA back when you were 18, 19, and music was your first love and maybe enduring love as well. So I was really thrilled to hear you mention Chasm. So apart from that roll call of amazingly talented mob, your mention of Chasm and ACPA reminds me about those Indigenous controlled spaces that have helped build the careers of yourself and a range of others. So there's something in that for the story too, I think, that you were able to...
Totally is. Like, you look at two of, like, myself and Stephen Oliver, we are two of the most, for this time, we're doing celebrated, funny, go-to comedians, hosts, people to interview, people to be in shows, that kind of thing. We both came from the school of Michael Leslie, basically, like the Aboriginal performing. And prior to ACPA being set up in Queensland, it was the Aboriginal Music Theatre program in Perth, and Stephen was a student of that school, and so it was a job clerk. And I'm pretty sure Leah Purcell had been in classes with Michael Leslie, you know, Trevor Jamison, like these. We come from this old school, and so, you know, but then if we go back further, so Michael was the one, like, so one of my biggest influences in my life, and who I probably wouldn't have the career or the veracity or the conviction that I have, is Michael Leslie. Is the you know, he is the father to my backbone, to my foundation of me being in the arts and me having this. His story goes back to NAIDA. His mother went to NAIDA. That's how I attended ACPA, was because my mum knew Michael. But, you know, Michael starts back in NAIDA. When NAIDA first started, I'm pretty sure that mum was one of the is a from there. Her and Michael, you know, and Cheryl Stone and all of these other wonderful people. You know what I'm like? It's special, and I don't know if we have that. I don't know if we have like that. I don't know if we have that anymore. That kind of place that can grow Black talent like that, you know?
Yeah.
It's hard. And I know
It's
that
a
we're
good
talking,
question.
you know, I know that I'm here now talking to NIDA, and of course NIDA is one of the leading schools for the arts, and it's not to take anything away from them, but I just know where I started, and it wasn't at places like
Yeah.
it was, you know,
Yeah.
somewhere that would probably seems really far away from that. And I don't want to like send this into a little roundabout, roundabout.
I know it's a good provocation. It's a good question because community control does lead us down certain paths, and it's something to reflect on how institutions can they replicate those environments that nurture our talents, the talents of people like you. Now, a couple other comments that come through. Elaine, you are so genuinely amazing and your unique personality shines through. Keep it up. Also, yeah, that's nice. There is a question here. If you, given that 7 stages of grieving is still, even though you're on a small break, it's still in season. There's a question, you can figure out how you're going to answer it though. Congrats on 7 stages. Can you speak to the ending of the show and the work that still needs to be done? Question mark.
Haha. So the end of the show is our 2021 diary entry for this work. If you've ever seen 7 stages of it's not a linear story. It doesn't just go from one thing to the other. A prose after prose kind of performance piece. Beautiful. You know, it's a whole range of different stories that have been brought together. And so for 2008, the show would have ended with the plea, which is the last story. And then for the 2008 publication, Deb and Wesley added in Walking Across Bridges, which talks about the 2000 event of 250,000 people walking across the Harbour Bridge. And I was there that day. And I say that in the play. I was there that day, and I was. Like, it was, you know, and at that time, my grandmother was the chairwoman for Reconciliation Australia. And so, you know, it was definitely a moment. And in the play, I just get to relive that moment every night. And so that was the response after the walk. So when the play was pulled forward into 21, and what the show is now, and what our diary entry is. Our final diary entry is a comment that says we're tired. We're a little bit, you know, from my point of view, it's like, yeah, we're a little bit, we just need you to do the work. The work is action. It's always been action. We have always wanted action. I'm 40 and I feel like I'm still pushing mud up a hill in some respects. But, you know, mud's good. We can build houses out of mud. We can make mud bricks. We're a crafty people. But at the end of the day, it is about a call to action, which fits into what today is about. We're always calling for action. We will never not calling for action until people do the action. Just do it. That's why I'm tired, because I feel like the call to action has been called, and is still being called, and I will keep on calling for action, as will every other Black actor, person that wants to stand up. We'll never not call for action until things are set right. So the end of the play definitely is a call to action, and it definitely just sits in the tone of what 2021 is.
Yeah, excellent. Thank you, and great question, whoever provided that. You did also talk about auditions. Yeah, deadly question. And there's another one too that riffs off your comments about audition and how it's, you feel it took you a long while to, as you say, nail an audition, and also to accept sometimes the gig that you've gone for isn't necessarily the right gig for you at that time. And that at the age of 37, channeling Janet Jackson with your girl group, that was a good time. That was the right time for that gig. So someone's asking, how do you prepare yourself skills-wise, intellectually, emotionally and spiritually for an audition?
That's a really big question, and it's just about knowing the brief. As long as you know the brief of what the audition is. So like the last audition I did was in Canberra, and along with and it was about 4 pages long. It was a conversation. So instead of hit every word and make everything, like, you've just got to have a conversation. Like if it's a conversation, if your audition piece is a conversation, then conversation, and you have to let everything go. And even when I was filming it, so I had to self-film. So I had all stacked up, and I'd pulled in lighting from the lamp across the other side of the room, directed it in my face, and kind of set things up, and then I had my friend reading the other parts, and it just had to be. And then once I'd set everything up and I kind of went, okay, all right, who is she? She's a mother. I'm a mother. She wants to have a relationship with her children. I want to have a relationship with my children. Like, I drew on myself. And if the brief comes through and it's not, if you have nothing to draw on, then you just got to play around with it and have fun with it. But because that audition was about, I've graduated into mother roles now. Congratulations, yay me. I draw on how mothers go on. Like, I'm a mum and I'm tired. Like, I'm sick of these kids ringing up and asking for money all the time and want to spend any time. You know what I mean? Like, just having a big moan now. But it is just, you've got to like make yourself a cup of tea and set the little scene, set yourself up, get yourself relaxed, pin your pins up. If you can't remember, if you haven't memorized all of the things, then pin them up, and and these are little cheat things now. But if you're in the audition and you you could just like go and then read your line and then come back and tell your line, and those are good little handy tips as well. And I learned that one off a friend who was on Instagram. Her little post was, does anybody put does anybody put your audition lines just above, like, as you're thinking? So naturally when we go to think, we're like, looking away like that. So if you just put your lines in that song, it helps out.
Deadly.
You have to be yourself. Like, you just have to be yourself. And fake it till you make it. You can never be prepared.
Yeah.
You can never be prepared for anything. You've just got to be prepared for anything.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and that sounds really whatever it is, but you can't prepare. You can't prepare for the unknown. So you just got to be the unknown and just go.
Wow. Good on you, Elaine. That's just brilliant. Now, we've only got a few more minutes, unfortunately, with you today. But you also mentioned, like, we know that you've been on the big screen with Top End Wedding. We know you've been on the little screen with Black Comedy, also Nowhere Boys, and some other productions. What about the even littler screen? Because you're very interested in TikTok. So why don't you spend the last couple of minutes with us today talking about that?
Oh my God. And that's what I organised myself for everyone watching. I was like, we were having this big yarn the other day and I was like, oh my God, I'm going to talk about TikTok because I'm obsessed with TikTok at the moment. And I'm just going to give you at least one or two accounts to follow. The first one should be Tristan and Mary. Tristan and Mary Tristan and Mary are two of the funniest people that I've ever watched, and they're just online creating content. I mean, that's the other thing, right? Is that moving through your careers as actors, as artists, you know, you've got to move with the times. And so these days it's all about TikTok, Instagram, online, doing reels, 15 seconds, 3-minute videos. And in doing that, things like, and I'm not trying to, the questions that have come through have been great. But if you're online creating, if you can challenge yourself to create content, whether you're able to follow or not, if you're just online creating content and you're happy with the content that you're putting out, when it comes around to things like auditions and stuff like that stuff will be second nature. You've always got to be leveling yourself up, skilling yourself up. So like with the example that I made about stand-up comedy, that is a challenge for me. I love the fact that I am a part of a generation of comedians that we're all engaged with. You know, we all connect with each other online, and want to be able to, you know, do something with that. But I have to pay attention and focus to that. But I've got other, you know, other things that I'm doing. You know, it's all about what you're pouring your energy into and what your focus is. And so definitely in a way to keep yourself active and keep your mind active and stuff like that, like following trends like TikTok and all that kind of stuff, because TikTok is just blowing up, and it's definitely a place to be, to put your content and really, you know, genuine content, genuine influence. Like you look at Tristan and Mary are genuine. Like, yes, they swear like troopers and they razz each other up and they're cousins and they're stealing bush lemons throughout their community, and, you know, they're little skits and all this kind of stuff, but it is hilarious. It is absolutely hilarious. And there was this other group. Oh, they were cousins, and they were like they're 16 or so. I was scrolling one night on TikTok, and they had come up because they're dressing up. So they're dressing up. So the two young girls, they're dressing up. So the one's got like a moustache, and they've got their hat backwards, and their their hips and all this kind of stuff, and they're dancing to this song. And I watched it over again because of the nuances within these girls, the comedy hits that, you know, they were landing looks on the beat, pulling these faces. They were in it. They committed to, and they would have had to have a camera, you know, had to run through the whole thing. They would have set up the camera, make sure the thing was on, press the timer, press the thing, go and get, you know, off, and then walk into the scene, do this lip sync song, and, you know, hit all their marks. And then they would have had to finish it, watch it, edit it, both be happy with what they've edited, and then send, you know what I mean? Like, it was a whole process. That's the beauty of what TikTok is that you can use it in any way you want to craft anything. You don't even have to, it doesn't even have to be about acting or your career. Whatever it is that is that you find true pleasure in, focus on that, and the rest will take care of itself.
Fantastic. Thanks so much, Elaine Crombie. We're going to let you go now, and thanks for tuning in, all of those people who are on the live stream, and I hope you've really enjoyed as much as I have listening to Elaine today. Thanks, Elaine.
Thank you. Thanks so much for having me, everybody. Have a good NAIDOC week. Mwah.
Happy NAIDOC.